Jim for not being here.
Yeah. Or being here with your mic off.
Should we just enjoy this?
Oh, it's so nice.
Silence and just. It's kind of nice. I don't even have my script up. I'm not even paying attention.
You don't know it by now?
I know it.
From fabulous Las Vegas, Nevada, this is Pod Therapy. Real people, real problems, and real therapists. You can submit your questions
so
anonymously at podtherapy.net or email us at podtherapyguys@gmail.com. And now, broadcasting from the churn, Dr. Jim isn't here, but that's Whitney. I'm Nick Tangeman. It's time for some Pod Therapy.
He nailed it.
It's great. He's so good. It's better than you, Nick.
Yeah, I mean, that's word for word.
Yeah.
Like he's.
Well, you hardly ever send me the
Which is
script.
really
You sent me the script today.
Oh, I did send it to you, didn't I? Oh my God!
I was like, he looked at his
wow.
computer. You shouldn't have said anything,
I was
Nick.
like, he's nailing it. How does he just... I was like, he's listened to it that often.
I mean, I
was
do
like,
hear it often.
I know.
Yeah.
But you can't be paying attention that often.
What's that?
You... I did send you the script because Jim is not here today.
Right.
Which is
That's the thing.
Sorry,
Weirdly, I
Jim.
get the. I don't know what the thought process is, but I get the script if one of you isn't here.
yeah, because I don't know, because I figured if you wanted to read the questions,
Yeah.
that's kind of
You're in on it.
I haven't.
We're just no, not in preparation.
Oh, you mean read them on the show?
Yeah,
Oh, yeah, I can read them on the
Yeah,
show.
We'll just do.
Oh,
yeah, great.
yay.
We'll just do this ICS style.
Great.
Which, by the way, thank you for reading my my scoop mail.
Oh yeah, it was good.
I honestly thought you were gonna read it in that voice.
Oh yeah.
I thought for a second, like, I should just. No.
I don't know how long I could hold that voice.
No.
From fabulous Las Vegas, Nevada.
I already.
This is Nick Tangeman.
I think you
Then
already
I'm-
hold it too long, actually. But yeah. So welcome everybody. It is a Dr. Jim Jobin-less pod therapy, but we're gonna be okay. We're gonna
Yeah.
make it.
I mean, arguably we'll be better.
We have prepared for situations like this.
Yep.
So we're gonna be all right.
Don't forget, everyone, to take to all the social media and talk about how this is the best version of this show ever.
Oh, so we did that last time.
Oh my God.
He did miss an episode before, and it was
Okay.
just Jacob and I.
Okay.
And so
that's
we
fun.
told everybody
To do that.
Yeah, because we knew he wasn't going to listen to this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they did. And he like read all of it, and then
So
was
he wouldn't
like,
listen to this show if
No,
he's not
he didn't
on
listen
it?
to the show.
He didn't
no.
listen to the show.
I know.
But he did read all the comments.
I mean,
And so then he's like, he's having this like existential crisis.
because
like,
Jim.
oh my God, well
Because
maybe
Jim. Yeah.
maybe the show is better without me. And
Oh my gosh.
And then we were like, listen to the first 2 minutes of the episode, dipshit.
He's
Oh,
too much.
was
Oh
funny.
my God, that's great.
so but
So-
he did. He came back. So
Oh, he did.
He did come
How
back.
many times has Jim not been on the show?
I think that was the only one. He hasn't missed since then. I don't think.
Have you done another one without Jim? Or did you do one without Nick?
No, she did the one without me.
No.
Okay.
Yeah. Because I've only missed one
Okay.
in 6 years.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
Yeah, he's missed like
3. I think.
one or two. Yeah, a couple.
Okay.
Anyway.
Y'all are consistent.
Yep. We this is the most important thing in all of our lives.
It's the only thing I have going for me.
Yeah.
Jacob's confirming. Yeah.
Yep.
So,
Yep. Oh, sorry. No, Nick.
Ah,
You're a golf tournament winner.
Oh, yeah.
Aw.
No.
That was several
true.
weeks ago.
Well, we got another one coming up this weekend.
All right.
ooh,
so-
okay.
Be prepared for that because I will have stories. So next Patreon, next week, will be very golf heavy. So for those of you who don't like
Buckle
that, skip next week's episode.
Or there's also a possibility that Nick won't do well in that tournament, in which case that it won't be golf heavy at all.
Yeah.
yeah,
There'll
if
be-
it doesn't
there'll
get
be
brought
very
up,
little mention of golf next week if Nick doesn't do
if it
well.
doesn't get brought up, you'll know exactly.
Or
how
if Jim and I are the only people that bring up the
I
golf
was gonna
next
say
week.
Jacob's definitely bringing it up.
No, I'll forget about my next week.
That's true.
Which actually reminds me, that's the other thing that we got to talk to Jim about.
Yeah,
Golf?
the golf.
Yeah, when are we
When
doing
Oh,
is he
yeah.
going? I was
Yeah.
gonna ask him today,
Yeah, because
but he's not here.
it's not getting any cooler in
No,
Las
it's
Vegas.
starting to warm up now.
Yeah.
Finally.
So
Although if it holds right where it is now,
it's fine.
it's just
now.
perfect every
Yeah.
day.
It's so
Yeah.
except it's really windy.
It is.
Like today was windy AF.
Yep. It was pretty bad.
Yeah.
Oh. I was not in my neck of the woods. My neck of the woods, it was great. I was outside all day.
Did you build a wall around your yard? So
No.
now it just
Yeah.
blocks all the wind.
No, that's next.
Oh, okay.
The parapet. is going in next week.
If you thought the pavers were bad,
Yeah, building a 12-foot tall wall
Yeah.
and guard towers.
yeah, that's going to be tough.
It's a
Yeah,
challenge.
I might bring somebody in for that.
Yeah.
I would love to do that though. I would love to have like a 15-foot wall around my property. There is something that so this idea that we've toyed with. So our house is part of a 4-house cul-de-sac. It's
Gotcha.
like a mini cul-de-sac. And I have this idea in the back of my head to make this 4-house cul-de-sac into its own compound.
Yeah.
It was done.
Blend all the fences.
I mean, there are places around town that have done this.
Yeah, the
Sister
fucking
Wives
Sister
did it.
Wives did it. Yeah.
In
Yeah.
North
Okay.
Las Vegas.
'Cause
or
they're
North.
A couple friends of ours that used to live in the area, they live like just down the street.
Right.
And so, yeah, that basically was a brand new house, like a new construction or whatever. There's 4 houses there.
Yeah.
They just tore out the wall.
That's it.
Between
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
I would love to do that. I would love to either
So you get
buy
along with
all of those
Oh, okay.
houses or like have people there. No, I get along with my neighbors fabulously right
or
now.
just marry into them.
That's it.
That would work fine
Polygamy.
too.
No, we
Yeah.
get along with all of our neighbors just fine right now.
How
But we
well
don't
do you get
have.
along
That's
with
the thing. We don't have that relationship. We don't have the like walking through each other's backyard relationship.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
We have a perfectly good neighborly relationship.
Okay.
It's so funny you brought that up
I thought so too.
Yeah?
because that's one of our questions.
Yeah.
But that's the
Jacob's
that's-
gonna have good advice. For
Should we skip to that one?
Let's just do that one.
Which one is that one?
That's the second one, which it's actually named
Number 3.
Number
Yeah.
3.
Oh, I got it.
Yeah.
Am I a bad neighbor? Hello, Pod Therapy Wunderkins. The answers you provide to listeners have a great balance of helpful advice, humor, and new ideas. So I've decided to try this awesomeness out for myself. Thank you for your thoughts. Here's the situation. I am a solid introvert. I like people a lot, but I also know my own energy limits and that surpassing them leads to exhaustion, mind fog, and full-on cranky town. I also live with generalized anxiety disorder, which gets better when I take really good care of myself and gets worse, e.g. bad sleep, intrusive worries, insane body tension, TMJ, etc., when I ignore my needs. So I structure my time and activities intentionally with balance in mind. My day job involves pretty intense one-on-one interpersonal interaction 4 days a week. Think something like grief counseling. And I have 2 adolescent boys with full social lives and extracurriculars. One of the best decisions of my life is that 3 years ago, my husband and I sold our house on a cul-de-sac and bought a sweet little home with lots of property on the edge of the woods just outside of my hometown. It has been the best anxiety remedy ever. We're close enough that our kids can easily get to town, and we can still enjoy a peaceful sanctuary in the evenings and weekends. Instead of car horns and house parties, I listen to bird songs and enjoy forest walks and gardening. Here's the problem. Before we bought our property, while it was vacant for approximately 8 months, a few of our now neighbors apparently got into the habit of hiking through our front yard as a shortcut to nearby established hiking trails. This bothers me, as my bedroom windows face that direction, and seeing and hearing people walk by unexpectedly while I'm still in pajamas or nothing is pretty much the opposite of what I'm going for here. So I talked to the neighbors I saw and asked them to give us at least an hour's notice before walking through. Well, they didn't. They continued just walking through whenever they pleased. The one family we share a road/driveway with agrees with me and takes the view, my property, my rules, sorry not sorry, your hobbies happen elsewhere. So I told the offending neighbors that I was no longer allowing pedestrians onto our property without permission. And they stopped. Yay! But not before, quote, telling everyone on 2 different streets how horrible and crazy we are, end quote. My introverted self wasn't really interested in befriending all these people anyway, because it sounds exhausting, but I've always been extremely cordial with my neighbors in the past, and this is exacerbating my anxiety and my sense of identity as a nice person, and it feels shaky. I feel embarrassed when I drive through the neighborhood. I smile and no one smiles back. I wave, I get nothing. A part of me feels embarrassed, but another part feels that I got what I ultimately wanted, which was privacy, and I shouldn't complain that it comes with a side of social ostracizing. After all, I honestly don't have any interest in socializing with all of these people anyway, but I guess I just wish it felt different. I'm still not willing to give up my privacy just so that people I don't know will think that I'm friendly. For what it's worth, my husband has a much easier time maintaining boundaries without guilt, and I have historically struggled with self-sacrificing behaviors. So, here's my question. Am I a bad neighbor? I want to enjoy my home and family in peace, do work that I care about, and savor the trees and birds. But does being a good neighbor mean more than just not being loud, messy, or rude? Does it require that I give my neighbors access to my property? Does it matter that we are all rural and that these neighbors have a lot more property than we do and are much wealthier than us? Should I even care what they think about me? What should I do differently? Thank you so much for your thoughts. With gratitude. That is bad neighbor, pronouns she and her.
All right.
No, and nothing. All right, next.
Yeah, you're doing fine.
Done.
I was going to suggest getting the motion-activated sprinklers.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, there are a lot of good passive-aggressive ways
Yeah.
to
Yes.
solve this problem.
Yes.
That is
Well,
a
it sounds like
great
the problem
point.
is solved. That's,
Yeah.
I was sad that the advice was not, how do I stop these people from coming onto my property? I was
No.
really sad when I
No,
got to
that's-
that part
that's
because I
what-
was all about motion-activated sprinklers.
That question you write into Ice Cream Social with. This question is a good pod
The
therapy
follow-up question is for pod therapy.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I saw on Reddit, here we go, the other day a super wholesome reaction to a guy in his like mid-30s, and there was a kid that was walking through his front yard, and he told him to stop, and the kid just kept doing it. And so he got his hose and started spraying the kid, which
All of
everyone's
them?
like, all the hoses or
All
the
of his
kids?
hose. Sick him.
Well, different cops were called on that guy. This is a different guy. So he's spraying water on this kid who's coming from like a soccer practice or something. And the kid just stands there. Like, so
Finds it refreshing.
the first day he runs off, but then the next day he just stands there. And I just imagine them like staring eye to eye, like
Yeah.
just dead eyes. And, like,
That's a
I'm
power
spraying-
move right there.
For hours.
Yeah.
So then the guy,
I could take this all day.
the guy basically ends up saying like, now I just spray him and he loves it. And like they kind of chat now. It was so cute. I was like, oh my God. Everyone's like, this turned from like, am I the asshole or would I be the asshole? Like his wife's like, stop spraying the kid. And he's like, he likes it. So it was hilarious. Anyway,
Smash cut
that's
to
what
the,
I
like,
thought of when I
the,
read
the
that.
pottery scene from Ghost. It's just like that guy and the kid just making pottery together.
The water
Yeah.
falling on him.
That's
So
pretty
anyway,
funny.
that was a side note that I thought of. I'm like, maybe if you spray them with the hose, then they'll just become your friend.
Yeah. I mean, it sounds like the problem's kind of, at least how do you stop it has kind of been solved. But
Every single person in this is going to get over this.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, so I had, back in Iowa, our house, I loved our house. It was a great location, and it was not a cul-de-sac, but it was on an L, like a corner, right? So on the corner there was a little cul-de-sac, but we were like 2 houses down.
Okay.
So a good friend of mine lived 2 houses away from me. So we were constantly just walking to each other's houses.
Yeah.
Our backyards, even though there was 2 houses between us, our backyards almost touched
Okay.
the way that the property was laid out. So it was a really fun place, especially in the summertime, just to kind of go out, hang out with, we got along with all of our neighbors. It was awesome. But the interesting thing was that our property backed up to a state park.
Oh, cool.
And so behind us, it was just like this huge drop of, I don't know, it's probably 30 or 40 feet, just kind of a drop down.
There's hills in Iowa?
Yeah, this is the
It's the one.
hill.
Oh,
This is
the hill. Okay.
But it was forest, like,
Oh, that
Tons
sounds
of trees.
beautiful.
and then down like halfway down this hill, there was like a little flat spot, which used to be an old trolley track.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
So
but
fun
the-
if you're a kid.
Yeah, but the tracks were taken out, but the path is still there.
Gotcha.
Okay.
So a lot of people were using that path, and so biking on it and whatnot. And then there was, paths that kind of went off into the state park or whatever. But to get down there, you'd have to kind of go around kind of a busy intersection and then go down kind of this really weird path or whatever.
Mhm.
There was another path that was on our property. It was
Oh,
right
man.
at the end of the property. And so people would just use that.
Yeah.
It never bothered me. I never really cared. But the thing is that I think distance matters,
Certain.
because that was at least.
Was it right by your bedroom window?
It was.
Oh, okay.
It was by the bedroom window.
Okay.
But it was at least probably 100. Well, it was probably 100 yards away.
Okay.
Oh,
So it was off. There was a distance there
Okay.
to get to the head of the trail.
yeah.
Okay.
So, and also the other thing is that no one walked no, that's not true either. I was going to say no one really walked between the houses to get to it.
Okay.
Occasionally that would happen. And in that case, they were they could reach out and touch the side of the house. That bothers me
Yeah.
because then
Feels invasive.
yeah,
more.
because
Right.
they're if I'm happen to be in that room, I'm the distance
You're like
from
eye
you to
contact
me.
when
Right.
you walk by.
Yeah, then it's a little awkward. I didn't really care for that, which it sounds like maybe that's kind of more what the writer's dealing with.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
think a lot of this, I think, really just kind of depends on, how big of an inconvenience it is for you and weighing that against the consequences of, if you set a boundary, enforcing that's going to come with consequences.
Well, I mean, here's the thing. It sounds like the problem is solved.
Yeah.
It sounds like the problem of
Yeah.
them coming on your property is
They
solved.
stopped.
Yeah. So that's good.
Mhm.
They're jerks.
Yeah.
Because you asked them something reasonable.
Yeah.
You didn't even ask,
You didn't
don't
even have
come on
to
my
do
property.
That. Yeah.
You said, give me a heads up if you're going to come on my property. And they didn't even do that.
Yeah.
So these people, they're acting like jerks. Maybe they're jerks or maybe they're not, but they're definitely acting like jerks right now.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think you're a bad neighbor.
No.
I think this is,
And they are every single person that has been affected by this and every single person that they've talked to about this, they're all going to get over this.
exactly. And I think that's kind of one of the things where it's like, this comes with ownership.
Yeah.
Okay, you own that property.
Yep.
You're not an asshole for asking people to respect the thing that you own.
Yeah.
It's like, is it rude for me to not allow people to just walk into my house? No, it's
Yeah.
because I have that boundary. They should respect that. And-
Although maybe, I'm just not thinking of this. Your neighbors, Anonymous, may be just big fans of the Disney movie Pocahontas. And they know that you can't really own land. Who can own the land?
You can paint with all the colors in the wind.
Thank you, Whitney.
I'm filling Jim's spot for
Yeah.
Disney movies today too, I guess.
Have
Thank
you
you.
ever
That needed
heard
to
the
be
wolf
filled. Thank
cry to the blue corn moon, Anonymous?
I didn't know it was blue corn until just now, which
I
makes way
think it
more
is.
sense.
What'd you think it was?
I don't want to say
What'd you think it was?
blue horn.
Blue horn moon.
Blue corn is way
I believe
more,
blue corn moon is just a type of moon.
Okay, but there's blue corn, so that makes sense. There's no blue horns.
I have zero idea what you guys are talking about.
Poke-
Oh my
Pocahontas.
god.
No, I know that.
End
That's it.
End of list.
End of
Let me
reference.
let me
That
find the
means
song real
nothing
quick.
else.
No,
No,
just kidding.
no, that's fine. I'll be all right.
I was gonna say that you're worried about not getting along with your neighbors, but there's one neighbor that you do get along with.
Yeah.
Because they told you the quotes that they're telling other
Right.
people. And you said the person who shares your driveway, which is probably your closest neighbor, is on your side. And they're like, yeah, your property, your rules. So you're not totally what's the word I'm trying to say? Like,
Alone.
Antisocial?
pushing people away.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah.
a word for that. and
I
can't
think you're
of
doing fine.
it. Yeah.
Plus, let's not forget that your yard has the shortcut, which means it's not the only access.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So if you're going hiking, this is a hiking trail, right?
Right.
So if they're going
It's
hiking,
access to a hiking trail.
yeah. So it's like, you know what? I want exercise, but not that much.
Right.
I want the
I need
shortest
to-
way to the exit.
Settle down.
That's so
It's like-
true. That's
Yeah.
funny.
It's like, just go the long way. What are you talking about? Like, this isn't.
Hurry.
Look,
Yeah.
just in case
If
Anonymous's
you run, you
neighbors,
get there faster.
yeah, just in case Anonymous's neighbors are listening to this, take the extra loop around, get a little bit more exercise,
Yeah.
and like make a pie or something and leave it with your neighbor. Apologize for your jerk store actions because that's what you're
Yes.
doing.
Yeah.
And by the way, you can own the earth and still all you'll own is earth until you can
You
paint with all the colors of the wind. I looked up the lyrics.
Yes. That's what I was going to say. I was like, there's a line in there from what Jacob was saying.
I was like, there's a line in there. I don't know what it is,
That's
but I
it.
know it's it.
That's a line.
Yep.
Um,
And I've also confirmed Blue Corn Moon.
it is blue corn. See,
Yep.
I told you that made more sense. That's funny. I've been singing for 36 years. Blue Corn Man. Or when did it come out? When did Pocahontas come out?
93, 95, something like that.
Okay, so 30 years.
Yeah, it's been a while. It's not new.
I wanted to say too that you mentioning driving around and people not smiling back or waving back, it's possible that some of that is like being fed by your anxiety. Like
Certainly.
worry.
Or it could just be unrelated.
Yeah, it could be unrelated. They're just looking down or something, or I don't know.
Yeah, no, that's a good point, because there's confirmation bias that fits in with that too,
Good
right?
point,
So
yeah.
whatever you're looking for, you're going to find.
Yeah.
So if you're already concerned or worried that they don't like you, your brain automatically is going to look for evidence to prove it, not evidence to disprove it.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's actually
And if
a
they
really good
actually
point.
don't like you, fuck them. I like you.
Amen.
You have 3 out of 4 votes out of Pod Therapy.
Yeah.
Should you do anything different?
And we'll go
No.
ahead and vote for Jim in
Yeah.
proxy.
Yeah.
You got 4 out of 4.
That's fine. That's fine. Actually, no, Jim would probably vote against you. I'm just going to throw that out.
Jim's gonna say,
Probably
"Let him
would
walk
say-
through your
yeah,
yard.
Jim-
It's
yeah.
fine. It's not that difficult for you to just let him walk through."
Yep.
No, but I don't think you owe it to anybody
No.
to bend these rules. I don't think you should feel bad about that either. I do think it's normal, though, to feel bad about that. I do think because what you're wanting is you want to have a good relationship with your neighbors. That's awesome. It sucks that they kind of put you in this position.
Yeah.
They're being jerks.
But that's not your fault.
Nope.
That's not your fault at all. I was actually in kind of a similar position with this too. So the last year is in Iowa, I bought an above ground pool.
Okay.
Okay. So I had to flatten it out the ground.
Yep.
And believe it or not, Whitney, there wasn't a flat spot already.
Okay, if you say so.
So
I'll believe when I see it.
my friend
It was a
Nate
degree and a half.
Yeah.
and I were out there, had the whole area marked out, shovels, we were digging it, making it all flat and everything. And then the neighbors came over, and they had 2 little boys. They had they had to have been maybe 6 and 8, if I had to
Okay.
guess. Okay. And so the mom came over and she's like, "Hey, what are you guys doing?" and everything. And then I've been hesitant about talking about this
Yeah.
because they're going to see, a pool. They're going to want to go swimming in it.
Can we hang out?
Exactly. And then my whole thing is like, I'm fine with them hanging out in the pool if we're there.
Yeah.
I don't want them thinking they can just go in there. And like,
Yeah.
I'm already having anxiety about this
Yeah.
because this is a huge liability.
Yeah.
Something happens. It doesn't matter if I knew about it or not.
Yep.
We had a neighbor growing up that, I say neighbor, they lived 5 miles away, but we lived
Country
way out in the
neighbor.
country. That's it. They were like our 3rd closest neighbor. And they had a pool, and we had free reign to use it anytime. No call, just show up and use it. It was 150 yards from their house.
Oh, wow.
And it was closer to the road than it was to their house. So like they didn't give a fuck if we just showed up and jumped in the pool.
Yeah.
It didn't occur to me until years later.
As an adult.
The risk that they were taking.
Yeah.
Yeah. People were wild back
Yeah,
in the day.
And
I mean, we were definitely like, it was me and my best friend. We were definitely kids, and like it was all fine. And I believe our parents were always there with us.
yeah.
But it was just like,
Okay.
oh, this
Still.
guy just let these 2 kids use his pool anytime.
Oh,
So-
my God.
So she's like, "Oh, what's happening?" And so I'm like,
That guy was a
okay,
nicer neighbor
so-
than Nick.
Yeah, probably.
How do you feel about that now, Nick? Just kidding.
Financially secure. That's how I feel about it. So I said, "Yeah, we're putting in a pool," and then she's like, "Oh, the boys are gonna love that."
What?
And then so I was like,
Instant.
Instant. How is
I was
that your
like-
reaction?
Yeah.
I was
What
like-
boys? Me, my friends?
We are, yes.
We are
like-
the boys are gonna love it.
"Well, about that." And so I said, "I was like, I totally am cool with them using the pool as long as we are here and they ask first."
Yeah.
Said, "I'm really worried about the liability here. I'm really worried about one of the boys falling in, and it makes me really nervous. So, that's if you could
Heads up.
just let them know that, hey, this is a pool, but you need permission to go there and whatever."
Yeah.
Right.
And she was not happy with me.
Are you
she didn't,
serious?
Yeah. She didn't verbalize it.
Yeah,
She didn't say,
But you could tell.
yeah, I could tell like her
Was it your
whole,
confirmation?
She
bias?
didn't
Yeah.
go like, you didn't say all of that, and she didn't go like, oh, of course they'll ask
No, no, no.
permission.
No, no, no.
Obviously, they'll ask permission before coming on your property and using your property.
No shit.
no. It
Oh
was,
my
no, she
God.
was, no, the reaction, she's like, "Oh yeah, that's fine," and then she kicked my dog. That's how I knew something was
that's
wrong.
how you knew.
Yeah.
Okay.
You gotta look
Laura
out
has
for these
Very
little-
clear. Very
Laura
clear.
has asked over and over
These
again that you not call her that.
these little clues you got to look for.
Very observant.
But no, she just kind of shut down. It's like, oh
Did they ever use the pool?
no, they never
When?
asked.
When?
Oh,
They
there we
never
go.
asked. They never asked to use the pool. However, I would come home all the time and I would see like foot marks on the side where they would grab the edge and then
And
they would
climb up.
climb up to like get over.
She's like
and
watching
so-
out the door, like,
Yeah,
all
yeah.
right, go boys.
Go. They're not home yet. They're not home.
Yeah.
Go.
Again,
Oh my
motion
God.
activated sprinklers.
There it is.
Yeah.
Although I guess
They
if you get
would
into the
love it.
pool anyway,
They'd be like,
I guess
"Hell
that's less effective.
Yeah.
Motion activated paintball guns.
Mm.
I thought you were going to say motion activated electricity.
Sure, Nick. I mean, you could have just
He took it
electrified the
there.
pool anytime you weren't at home.
Yeah.
Could have.
Just like you're turning on the house alarm, turn the electricity, like power up the toaster that sits in the pool.
Nick, I told you this was a liability because I made it that way.
That's why I got, yeah, exactly. That's why I got all those weird looks when I went to Bed Bath and Beyond. And I was like, where are your toaster pools or your pool toasters?
Pool
Right.
toast.
I need a good pool toaster. So yeah, anyway, I totally get that. And it does put you in a really awkward position where you have to kind of, and I say this with quotes, be the bad guy, because you're not being the bad guy, but I guess the way I look at it is it's not on you. That's
No.
on them for putting you in that situation.
They're
Yeah.
being jerks and
Yes.
they're putting you they're making you feel like you've done something wrong. You haven't done anything wrong.
No.
They're gonna get over it. Don't sweat it too hard.
Yep.
And if they escalate it, then install some motion activated sprinklers.
Yep.
Yes.
Yep. We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we are going to be discussing seeking therapy as a therapist. You're listening to Pod Therapy.
Jim, you're fired. All right.
Oh,
I do kind of talk for a living.
Today's episode is brought to you by Ben Don, Malia, Richard Macy, Sunny Boy, Polygon, University Jeff, Samantha Cone, and Thunder Cougar Falcon Scoop. If you'd like to sponsor the show, become a therapy producer at patreon.com/therapy. We've got some trivia submitted by Ben Stanley.
Fuck yeah.
All right, here's some quiz questions for the podcast.
Here we
Answers
go.
down below. Cheers, Ben.
Can you see the answers yet, or are you playing along?
I cannot. I am playing
Awesome.
along.
awesome.
All right.
That's, by the way, we love when people send trivia questions in, and we love when the answers are not somewhere that Nick can see them immediately so that he
Yes.
can play along with the trivia.
I like to be able to see the answers. I'll still play, but it's nice to see them.
It's a much
That
easier
is
game when you
nice.
can see the
Yeah.
answers.
I do better. I don't always win, but I do better.
We're just trusting that Nick can't see the
Right.
answers.
Yeah.
Trust.
All right.
No one is looking at his screen, making sure he can't see the answers.
The title of this quiz, which is funny, nobody puts Jimmy in the corner.
Great.
All right.
I assume Jim's mom is still listening to the show, even if Jim is not.
I doubt it. No, I'm sure. Do you really think?
You don't
no.
think she's listening
No.
anyway? I bet she
As
is.
soon as she heard Jim's not on the show, she turned it off.
All right, Bat Mom. If you're listening to this part right now, you got to let us know.
Yep. Please let us know.
You gotta settle the
a
bet.
bet. Right. Okay. Which of these is not part of a soccer field? Okay.
Oh,
A football field.
true.
Okay. A, corner arc.
Okay.
B, 18-yard box. C, free throw line. D, penalty arc. E, halfway line. I think I got C.
Is C free throw line?
Yeah, C.
Yeah,
I'll
I'm
go
going to
last
go with.
since I played soccer.
I'm also going to go with free throw line.
Yeah, you did play soccer. You had
Yeah.
a scholarship.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hopefully I don't get this wrong.
What do you think it is?
I was going to say free throw line.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
we all
Okay.
agree.
All right. All right.
I'm glad
was
you
like, dang.
announced you were going last after
I know, I
we
was
had
like, I'm
already
going
answered.
last, but you already answered. It's okay.
It is free throw line.
Hey,
All
look
right.
at us go.
Awesome. We're
Hey.
1 for 1.
We know soccer.
We've got 3 questions, so we're just going to do one at a time.
Awesome.
Next question.
Seeking therapy as a therapist from Anonymous. Hello, everyone. I am a licensed therapist who has struggled with some mental health issues throughout my life. I have lived with what I think is a combination of ADHD and chronic depression for pretty much as long as I can remember. No official DX and no current medication. That has to be a thing. I'm the non-therapist in the room.
Yes.
Self-diagnosing has to just be rampant in your profession, right? Not even like self-treatment, but just like, I'm pretty sure I've got these things.
100%.
Yeah.
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 I would assume so.
I mean, and
I'd be
even-
surprised if you said it wasn't.
Yeah, no, I remember even in like college, like you had like intro to psych,
Yeah.
I'm sure, like, and then you had to learn the disorders and all
Yeah.
this stuff. I remember our intro to psych class. It was right before Thanksgiving, and we kind of got introduced to the DSM-5, very entry level version.
4?
Of it. Okay.
I'm like 4.
Okay, wise ass.
Okay.
2.
DSM-4.
2. Yeah,
all right?
1. The original from the 70s.
Yeah.
Sorry.
You're right. It was DSM. No, it was DSM-3. Was it?
You know what? It might have been 3.
I think it was 3. I think it
Shit.
was DSM. No, it wasn't. It was 4. It was 4.
4.
Okay.
So
Okay,
they
go on.
introduced you to a book.
A book.
DSM-4.
that we use.
And the professor said, I want everybody to go home because you're all going home for Thanksgiving. Come back and I want you to diagnose at least one family member.
Wow, that sounds wildly inappropriate.
Mean.
It was, however, he was a genius because the way he handled it when he came back
Okay.
is he said, most likely all of you are wrong.
Ooh.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
He like
Yes.
really got in
He
there.
twisted
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
And that was his whole point is like,
Plot
you can
twist.
read through this and you're going to read through this. You're like, oh my God, that's my Aunt Susie. Or, oh my God, this is, and you're like, no,
That's kind of cool.
it's not.
Okay.
Yeah,
right.
I
So
take
it was,
back. I
of
was
course,
like, what the?
of course, if you missed that day, then you missed
You're
the
just
lesson.
walking
so no
around
matter-
all pompous,
Right.
like Susie's got the she's
Yeah.
manic depressive.
Right. I think I've said on the show before. I had an ex-girlfriend who years, several, like 4 or 5 years after we dated, decided to go back to go to grad school to become a therapist. Calls me up out of the blue. We hadn't
No.
spoken in
What did she
years.
diagnose you with? I got to hear this.
What was it? I mean, she's like her first grad year
Yeah.
of that
Just a
of all the
baby.
stuff.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that like narcissistic personality disorder was in there. It was all the things you would expect after a bad breakup. Because it was an
Yes,
unpleasant
I was
breakup.
just gonna
It's
say, yeah, that's common.
There are
after
certain
breakups.
diagnoses that are only made by ex-girlfriends,
Yes.
ex-boyfriends.
Yeah, narcissistic personality disorder was on there.
Yeah.
I think borderline personality. I'm pretty sure that was
Okay,
in there.
Okay, she's going for it.
I mean, you know him. What would you diagnose him
Yeah.
with?
I
I'm
believe
not going.
I
I'm not
believe
touching that.
I
poo.
believe there was also like straight up psychopathy.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah,
You did a number on her. Jacob.
apparently.
Yeah, what'd you do?
What did you do?
First of all, she broke up with me
Well,
For
I see
those
why.
reasons.
Yeah.
I know.
for several good reasons, apparently.
I don't know. I didn't really. Did you ever try and diagnose yourself though? Like, I feel like I was looking at everyone else in that
yeah.
process. I wasn't really looking inward, which I don't know what that says about
I
me.
don't
but
know as if I did either. Yeah. No, I can't. I don't think so.
I was all like, oh, you got this, you got that,
Yeah.
you have signs of this. Anyway, I think
Anyway.
we were mid question. Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah. So no official DX, which I assume that's
Diagnosis.
right? And no current medication. The impairments with these concerns come and go, and sometimes I'm more functional than other times, but I always find myself struggling in work and academic timelines and general motivation. I never really sought therapy when I was younger, and mostly had just dealt with the issues on my own by talking to friends. Now that I'm a little bit older, in my 30s, I feel more stable in my life, and I think now is a good time to seek some professional help. I had a therapist about 4 years ago, but it was really brief, like 4 months, and she ended up dropping me because she wasn't taking my insurance anymore, and I couldn't afford out of pocket at the time. Before that was a... Hold on, let me figure out what this sentence means. Before that, there was a therapist I saw at my university, but it was only for about 1 or 2 sessions, and it wasn't very helpful, so my experience with therapy in the other chair has been brief. The thing that I'm most concerned with, and I know that this will probably sound egotistical, is that I'm afraid to look for a therapist that isn't as knowledgeable or good as I am. I pride myself on being good at what I do, and I guess I'm worried that when I look for a therapist and I finally meet with one that I think is a good fit, experience and personality-wise, I'll be intellectualizing and analyzing everything that they're telling me, and think, oh, I know you're trying to use this CBT intervention on me right now, which will just take me completely out of the session. I've had these exact thoughts when I've discussed my mental health concerns with other mental health professional friends and will jokingly call them out on trying to therapize me. Any tips on how to just be a therapist seeking a therapist? Any advice on how to put my worries and fears and ego aside and just get on the path to healing already? Thank you for all that you do for mental health. That's anonymous, pronouns he and him.
I love this question.
It's great.
Being a therapist yourself, I give a little bit more credence to your self-diagnosis, but it is still very difficult to diagnose yourself.
Yeah.
But I will say for myself, I went to therapy.
Yeah.
I did therapy after my divorce,
Mhm.
which was it was very traumatic, wasn't good. And I got
Did
to
you
the
go to
point
your
where I was
ex-wife?
like,
Because I wouldn't recommend that.
That was my
Ooh,
first
She was a
mistake.
therapist.
Yeah.
For those that don't know.
yeah,
Well, that's why Nick still believes he has narcissistic personality
Yeah.
disorder.
I'm getting better. I'm working
Oh,
really
sure,
hard,
it's all
Jacob.
about you.
I'm working really, really hard.
Diagnosis confirmed.
But
lot of I statements there.
I had a lot of anxiety about this same thing. So I knew I wanted to talk to a professional. I wanted to see a therapist. I mean, and it was really weird for me too, because I remember having this conversation with another therapist, a mutual friend of ours.
Okay.
Because I was talking to him about it, and he's like, and he was actually kind of against it, which kind of surprised me.
What? Why?
Yeah, because he's like, you're a therapist. What are they going to tell you that you don't know?
No. Oh, gosh. Okay. Anyone out there that is a therapist, please go to a therapist if you feel you need to,
Yes.
if you're overwhelmed, if you're anything.
Now,
Yeah.
this is how I remember it. I could be misremembering it,
Mhm.
but that's how I remember him saying that.
Yeah. Well, it kind of makes me
but-
think of like this kind of joke. I know this isn't, not everyone's like this, but if you are, say, a professional organizer and you go home and your house is not organized, it's like, that's what you do all day. Do you really want to do that in your own house?
Right.
It's like, yeah, some people, but a lot of them know. They just want to go.
I don't know.
it's-
I have a great sound system in my house.
Okay. What do you do on it? Like, what do you use it
Watch
for?
movies and everything.
Okay.
Like I've got the full.
But you don't like produce at your house, or?
Oh no, we have to. I get stuck doing that too,
Okay.
but not on that system.
Okay. So yeah, it'd be like go
No, I've
home
got,
and
like,
just
movie
producing
theater
stuff
stuff in my
after
house,
you've been
though.
producing
Right.
things
Yeah.
all day. It's
Mechanics don't like to go home and work
on their
their
own car.
Right. They always drive
Cars.
beaters and yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, sorry.
Yeah.
So that's what I
No,
imagine too. Is
Yeah,
like,
and
Acrobats are always clumsy.
they just go home and just fall
Just
down.
fall
Yeah.
over.
Yeah, just
Fuck
can't.
it.
They can't sit up.
Yep.
Yeah.
spatial awareness.
But I had that, I had kind of that same concern. So I go into therapy, and I'm like, my idea behind this is like, I'm very worried that I'm going to recognize what the therapist is doing. But then I thought, like, okay, well, I got to do something. So fuck it, I'll give it a shot. So I go there, and the very first session is an assessment. So the therapist is asking me a whole bunch of questions, and I'm being very cagey and about what I do.
Mm-hmm.
And then, because I don't,
How'd that work out?
I did not well. Because I thought, like, if I can just go through, because my biggest concern wasn't necessarily me catching the therapist using some sort of technique.
Mhm.
It was more, I don't want the therapist to treat me different
I've thought about
because
that.
I'm a therapist.
And because
So-
you're so attractive.
I was
Ooh, the
fine with
pretty
that kind
one.
of treatment.
Yeah.
I'm fine with that kind of treatment.
Yeah.
It's earned.
It's pretty privilege.
earned,
Pretty
right?
privilege.
You know, Nick, this is a couch. At the end of the day, this is still a couch.
That's why I'm looking. I'm like, does this pull out?
Yeah. Oh, the couch does. Ah.
So anyway, so I'm being very cagey about what I do, and then finally I'm just like, okay, well, see, here's the thing, and I also I'm afraid that she's gonna be like, I'm gonna intimidate her
Mhm.
as a therapist, and so I'm like, okay, well, I'm actually a therapist. I've got a master's in social work. This is blah blah blah.
Mhm.
I kind of focus on addiction. She's like, and her response was just very like, oh, okay, great, and just
Okay.
didn't make a big deal out of it. And she actually said, she's like, yeah, there's there's a group of about 3 or 4 different therapists that I see.
Oh, wow.
Great.
And that made me feel really at ease.
Yeah.
To hear somebody say like, oh, this is normal. This is common. She's very experienced with it.
Great.
And the entire time that I was in therapy with her, there was never a moment where I had that thing like, oh, I see what she's trying to do, or anything like that.
Trying to like get ahead of it.
Exactly. Yeah. It was almost, it felt to me more like having a conversation with a friend who happens to be a therapist. Only this is a friend who I can just throw all of my emotional baggage on and not feel bad about it.
Yes.
You're paying for it.
Was
Yes.
exactly. And it kind of reminds me of what Jacob always says about therapists just being prostitutes.
No
I stand
shame
by
in the
it.
game.
Yeah,
no
no,
shame
because
in
it's like, because the argument that you make with that is that like a prostitute is not at all inconvenienced.
Yeah.
By the job that they're doing.
That's it.
And it's the same
And
with
neither is a therapist.
Yeah. You go for therapy, you don't have to feel bad about dumping all of your emotional baggage. They're not inconvenienced at all. That's what they do. That's what they're being paid to do. So for me, it was a lot easier to have that conversation with a therapist than to talk to some of my therapist friends. Because then I felt like, okay, I don't want to dump all this on them. I'll just talk a little bit and then I'll kind of back off. Didn't have to do that with her. And so that was my approach with it. I thought it was incredibly helpful, but I do empathize with your situation about like, well, I want to get a good therapist. I don't want to have a therapist who's less skilled than me.
I have what I think might be a good piece of advice.
Okay.
And the
Okay.
the two actual
Life coach
therapists
Jacob.
should probably actually back me up on this if I'm right.
Maybe.
Or tell me or call me out. What would you tell a patient to do in this scenario? And just do that. You would, I assume,
seriously,
I assume that if a patient came to you and said, I'm a therapist and I'm looking for a therapist of my own, but I have these concerns, I bet you have answers that you would give to that person who came into your office, and you would say things to them like, "Look, we're gonna do, the process. We're gonna go through things. We're gonna talk about things just like you talk to people about things when they come to you for therapy." And we're just going to do those things. There's not a magic wand that gets waved. And so like, it's not like you're waiting for her to wave that, or for your potential therapist to wave a magic wand and like, oh, you're waving the wand now.
Yeah.
Here we are. Like,
Oof.
even if you know what all the things are. So
Yeah.
Yeah. I 100%. I agree.
like you would tell your prospective patient, just trust me and trust what we're doing here. And let's just get to work.
Yeah, I agree with that. And, honestly, like I said, I never recognized any kind of technique that my therapist was using as far as any kind of therapeutic model or anything. But I also think she wasn't really using one.
She was more casual, or if she
Yeah.
was, it was more like, all right, well, this is a therapist, so I'm not going to have to explain things or,
Yeah.
make it so laid out. It's more like, let's just have a conversation. If they happen to be asking you a question in a certain way, it feels more like your therapist buddy instead of a therapist. Like,
Yeah,
instructor.
exactly. What she did that was so incredibly helpful for
That's
me
cool. Yeah.
was her role was just to hold up the mirror. That's it. And that's all she had to do.
Because you already know. That's
Yeah.
kind of true. It's like, hey, let
Yeah.
me just guide you a little bit
And if
instead of.
And if it's something
Hold
that you're
your hand.
interested in doing, which it sounds like it is, no reason not to pull that trigger.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of the stuff that she would do with me would just be kind of things like, oh, okay, did you notice this? And I was like,
I love that.
I had not noticed that.
Yeah.
She also taught me something that was really incredibly helpful, which it was eye-opening for me. I never considered it. But the thing that you, anonymous writer, should understand is that when you feel like you're a therapist, there's kind of this facade of control that you think that you have as a therapist. And the reason why is because you have spent several years working with people. And as therapists, we learn a lot of really good, useful skills to direct and pull information. So like if I'm meeting with a client, and I want to steer the conversation this way, and I'm looking for a certain thing, I can ask a question. And if the client doesn't go that way, I can rephrase the same question in a
Yes.
different way, and I can get them to go that way, right?
Yeah.
And so what happens is you start to develop this false sense of control over things. So then now when things start happening to
I can
you,
work your brain like a puppet.
exactly. Yeah. It
That's
really,
what Nick's been doing
it
this whole
really,
time.
it really kind of feels that way sometimes. Like, especially if you're a really skilled therapist,
Yeah.
it just drives this even more to the point of like delusion almost, where you feel like you've got more control over situations than you really do.
Plus, if I had
And
all
then-
those student loans, I would want to think that I had some kind of control as well.
Yeah.
The illusion
But
is
then-
very helpful in those situations.
But then what happens is then when shit goes down in your life, then you start looking internally. Well, what am I doing wrong? Because I can control everything. I can control all these different things, but this is happening to me. How is this possible? And then so my therapist was able to kind of point that out to me, just be like, you've gotten really good at directing clients this way, but you are not as in control over things as you think you are. And I was like, holy shit.
Damn
That's
it.
not a therapeutic approach.
No, I would not do
That's
that
a-
with
that's-
a regular
that's a
client.
call out.
not exactly. That's not a modality. That is just holding up a mirror.
Okay, so you're starting to touch on a perspective I was going to share reading through this, which is how many studies have shown that a person's relationship with their therapist, that therapeutic alliance or relationship, basically, how important that is. And it's more important than the type of modality used. So when you're like, that's not a modality, your therapist basically said, this is what my client needs. How can I give them what they need? And you had built up enough rapport with her and trust in her, and she could sense that. So she's going to start saying, all right, I'm going to push this a little bit and maybe call you out a little bit or question things a little more straightforward than she would with a client that needed to be handheld a little more.
100%.
Yeah. So this writer mentions that they've been to therapy before, but briefly or only once or twice. Did you have time to build that relationship? Because once the relationship is built, it's easier to be more vulnerable, and you're not going to want to be in control as much, or it's not as easy to be in control, like the illusion of control. And you're going to be more open and not on guard looking for those modalities, like, oh, you're using CBT now, like, gotcha. Like, I'm smart.
Yeah. And I kind of wonder too, like, when the writer's talking about, like, I'll talk to my therapist friends and I catch them using certain things, like, yeah, that's definitely true. And like, I know I do that sometimes, like with Jim, when we're talking about his anxiety or something like that,
Yeah, it's natural almost.
I'm the first one to point out the shit that he tells everybody else. Is it like, because like
you're like, the mirror's here.
Yeah,
like,
it's like, but I'm not his therapist.
Exactly.
Right. So I'm in a much different position. But I do think that, so maybe the friend comparison probably isn't a good predictor of what a therapy session will be like.
Absolutely.
But if you were in this position with me and you were going to find a therapist, are there certain qualities or traits that you would look for a therapist for yourself?
That is so funny. I just spoke with a colleague about this like a week or two ago, because I actually, full disclosure, am on the hunt for a therapist right now because I think it's important and I've reached a place where I feel like it would be helpful for me. But I have gone and looked through different profiles on Psychology Today, on Hello Alma, and I get kind of stuck. It's overwhelming. I'm like, nobody's jumping out at me. How do people find their therapist? And I've had other clients come in and be like, oh, we really liked your picture, your description, or, they all point out different things.
You should ask your clients.
What made you pick me?
No, ask them for a referral. Hey, do you know any good therapists?
Well, that's just funny.
You know what? I really need someone. Who was your second choice?
Yeah.
I think they'll be okay. But some advice that this colleague gave me, and I haven't followed up on it yet, but one of the things was choosing somebody in like Reno, like Northern Nevada.
Oh.
So you're not,
Yeah.
It's a small community here
Yeah.
in Southern Nevada, Las Vegas area. And I thought that was actually pretty good advice. It takes the pressure off of feeling like uncomfortable, maybe, or they're your colleague now you're going to meet up with, and now you're my therapist too.
What happens if I bump into you at a training?
Exactly. Yeah, a training,
Conference?
or I went to
Yeah.
a social work, event the other night, and it was like, what if that your therapist showed up there? It's
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
well, damn it. Are we drinking together? No,
Yeah.
that's unethical. Like,
Yeah.
so I really liked that advice. And so, yeah, that's what I'm going to follow up with. But as far as qualities, I don't know. I'm kind of stuck. What do you
Yeah.
guys in
Well-
Discord? What do y'all look for when you look for your therapist?
Yeah, that's a good question. Chime in with that.
Yeah.
For me personally, the thing that I think the quality that I really liked about my therapist, that if I were to do it again, I'd probably look for some of the same qualities, is I would look for somebody who is as seasoned a therapist as she was. She had been doing this work for 25, 30 years. Okay, so
I
she
like
was
that. Yeah.
so it's
Oh,
like
that is a good one
Yeah.
for the writer. I bet seasoned therapist. I
Yeah.
bet that's the most important thing
That's a good
on
point,
their
yeah.
list. Because all the things that they're talking about, like, oh, I'm going to see them going down this path or whatever. If they're a new therapist,
You
you
will.
really are,
yeah. Yeah.
and then it'll
Yeah.
bother you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's
But
You don't
I
want to be
think-
more
True.
experienced than the person you're going to as a therapist.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and I could have pictured her in almost like a mentor role if we were, in that kind of a relationship.
That's great.
So
yeah.
so that's something that was important to me, and I didn't even realize it was important to me. It just kind of it happened. But if I were to do it again, that's probably something I would look at, because there was absolutely nothing I was going to tell this person that she hadn't heard and dealt with another therapist.
Yeah.
And so like
Great.
there was nothing that was new to her. And
That's
so
such
that
a good
was
point.
yeah, that was
I'm putting that on
incredibly
my
helpful.
list.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks,
Definitely. Yeah, you bet.
Nick. All right, screw the writers. I got what I needed today.
Well, I hope that helped. But yeah, I mean, I think the biggest takeaway from that is don't be afraid of it.
Yeah.
Don't go get off the sideline, go dive into it, and just start doing the work, because I mean it is work to find a therapist.
Yeah, we've said that before. You may not click on the first.
Yeah. So I mean, start doing it. Start doing the reps.
Yep. There you go.
We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we are going to discuss neurodivergent burnout. You're listening to Pod Therapy.
They're a great band, by the way.
Yeah.
Ooh,
One of my faves.
Yeah.
Yep. Today's episode is brought to you by Ben Don, Malia, Richard Macy, Sunny Boy, Polygon, University Jeff, Samantha Cohn, and Thunder Cougar Falcon Scoop. And if you would like to sponsor the show, become a therapist at patreon.com/therapy. Our second question from Ben Stanley today is, which of these is not part of a basketball court? Oh, I think we got this one. Sideline,
Huh?
no man's land,
Uh-huh.
backboard,
Yeah.
center circle,
Mhm.
baseline.
I'm sorry. Will you repeat the question?
I
wasn't
can't
listening.
because it was so easy.
I'm sorry.
I will not repeat it.
Oh my god.
Which of these is not part of a basketball court?
Oh, okay, okay.
Sideline, no man's land, backboard, center circle, baseline.
Based entirely on facial expressions, I think Whitney has to go first.
I mean, no man's.
Fair.
Is that your final answer,
Yeah.
Whitney? You sure?
Yeah. That's all I got.
I will second that.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. I was like, Jacob's. She's trolling me.
Yeah. The only thing I was a little hesitant on with that was, like, I've heard announcers say that somebody made a 3-pointer from no man's land.
I was gonna say, I was
Right,
like,
so far away, but it was like,
oh.
okay, that's
It's
not
not technically-
technically
Yeah,
part of
yeah,
it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
Look
All
at
right.
us.
2 for 2, all of us.
Yep. Oh, I have to read the thing.
Oh, yeah, go
Oh,
ahead.
yeah.
What's the silence?
Whenever
Oh,
you're
it's me. Hello, everyone. That's how they wrote it. Hope everyone is doing well over on your end. Backstory: I'm a late 20s female with an ADHD diagnosis that periodically goes into remission. I've been really kicking ass at my new job for the last year and a half, and over the last few months, I've been wrestling with my ADHD getting worse. That's spaciness, forgetting things mid-conversation, hyper-focusing in the midst of interactions, having problems with finishing projects, and tracking progress across my workday, feeling completely disengaged at times, which has really hindered the enjoyment of my job. I work on a great but small team that really rely on me. So far, I've been able to manage where I to where I just seem forgetful or maybe a little bit overwhelmed on some days. This last week, though, has really gotten so bad. I will disconnect in conversations without realizing it and not knowing what clients were talking about mid-conversation in meetings. Additionally, it's like my brain has been selectively reading emails to where I've been rereading them 4 or 5 times before I can comprehend everything that's being said. Fortunately, this hasn't caused any real problems and is just slowing things down. This is really hurting my productivity, and my boss is beginning to notice. He had ADD back in the day in remission / also when it was still ADD, so he gets it, but it still bothers me. I've thought about taking time off, but after a couple of long weekends, it isn't seeming to help. I've also been trying to increase my exercise to a daily regimen now, as well as getting some intentional quiet time and journaling done to help my brain relax, but it just doesn't slow down. It's even hard to fall asleep lately though the ADHD deep dives are helpful. Oh, good.
And falling asleep.
Jim is he's a help.
That's how I interpreted that.
On top of all of this, I've had to set meal reminders again because I'll just forget to eat entirely if I don't have something or someone say, hey, food. I've never taken medication for ADHD. I know you guys can't recommend or talk about that in depth and have honestly been adverse. I think that means that they have been adverse and a bit afraid of using medication for it. I've been able to manage flare-ups before, but it feels like the stress it's causing at work Wait, what now? It feels like the stress it's causing at work, thus making me feel burnout, is just feeding back into my ADHD, and I have been feeling overwhelmed from them both. I even tried to write a different question to you guys and just lost my train of thought and direction mid-email to where when rereading it made no sense. So here's the question. I know everyone is different, but does ADHD that regularly goes into remission just stick around? Need different treatment over the years? This time feels more stressful than usual since I can usually help combat it with lifestyle changes and accommodate the way that my brain works on my own for a while. If anything, what are some ways to prevent going into full-blown burnout while I'm having these ADHD sessions? I've thought about
Symptoms.
sitting down. Symptoms? Is that what that is?
Yep.
Yeah.
Great. Symptoms then. I've thought about sitting down with my boss to work on a solution together, but we're running towards the end of the fiscal year, and neither of us really has time for that over a month. As always, thanks. Enjoying going back through the back catalog lately. Oh, fun. And that is from Trail Mix. Pronouns she and her.
Thank you, Trail Mix.
Yeah.
All right, so we got a lot of questions here about ADHD. Let's hope Jim isn't listening to this episode because I know he's just gonna be yelling furiously.
Good for him.
Yeah. All right, so let's talk
Should have
first.
shown up to work, Jimmy.
Jimmy. Can we call him Jimmy from now on?
That's fine with me.
That was everybody that's how Laura knew him.
That's what she told me the other
Yeah.
day, and
Jimmy
I was like,
Jobin.
I want to
Yeah.
call him Jimmy Jobin. That's so
Yeah.
catchy. Like,
Yeah, it is.
why are we calling him
Little Jimmy Jobin.
Little Jim.
Can we come up with a hobo name that has Jimmy in it instead?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Jimmy. I don't know. I'm gonna think on it. Yeah.
we're on it.
All right.
Okay.
I mean,
Bindle
so
Jimmy.
first, Bindle Jimmy.
Why is that so funny?
Does ADHD that regularly goes into remission just stick around? Do you have any experience with this as far as ADHD and kind of, because it will do that like as you go. I want to say it's something like, and I don't have these numbers off the top of my head, but I do believe it's something like 60% of
That's what
kids
Jim
who
said.
have it
Yeah.
as an adolescent will experience symptoms in adult, which means that 40% will stop experiencing those symptoms.
Was it that or was it 60%?
Maybe it was the other way around.
I think if I remember Jim mentioning that recently.
A
But
sizable percentage of
Yeah.
kids that have it will experience
somewhere
something
around 50%
as an adult.
give or take.
Let's
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
split the
Yeah,
Yeah.
we're
right in the
calling
middle.
it.
All right.
Yeah, he mentioned that. I'm going to be really honest. I did not know that about ADHD being able to go into remission. It kind of makes sense in that I feel like ADHD can be overdiagnosed in kids. So it sort of makes sense that some of that would go into remission. But like, did they really have true ADHD? Was that like other environmental factors or foods or things like that?
Yes. Now, I will even, I'll see that and I'll raise you.
Okay.
It could be both.
Yeah.
Because
making it worse if you had.
I'm sorry, Whitney, you've been raised.
Oh, I call you. I re-raise. Again,
No,
my
because
poker lingo.
there is a lot of situations like this that I'm aware of where there are a lot of factors that will cause the symptoms you experience to be different as conditions change. So like, for
okay.
example, I know with a lot of the research that I've been doing, with exercise, fitness, and anxiety and depression, one of the
Yeah.
things that was really kind of eye-opening for me was understanding that how the symptoms you experience while taking a medication can change based off of your fitness level.
Huh.
Not necessarily saying that like, oh, I'm more healthy, so then my symptoms change, but more so your metabolism. So like how your body breaks down that medication changes as your
Interesting.
metabolism changes. So then you kind of start having to like, so if you lost 30 pounds and you added 20 pounds of lean muscle, the way that you're processing that, the way your body is processing that medication may have changed. So it's not uncommon then for your doctor to kind of change your
Adjust.
prescription a little bit to kind of fit with what's happening with all these changes. So
Are the symptoms changing them for those people?
well,
just
symptoms
the
will
treatment?
change. Symptoms will change not just because of the medication that's changing, but also because, especially when we're talking about like anxiety and exercise, there's a huge link
Like
between
correlation
those.
with
Correlation.
those two, yeah.
Especially, and this for the writer, I'm glad to see that you have introduced exercise, because that's
Yeah.
always my go-to. I always push that.
That was like on the checklist when they were
That's-
going through all the things they tried. I'm like, wow, they've tried
Yeah.
a lot of things. They
Now,
should.
one thing with some of the clients that I work with in my fitness program that are dealing with anxiety, not necessarily ADHD, but dealing with anxiety, one of the things that I try to get them to do is try to get them to work out in the morning and not in the evening, because it is helpful. There are some helpful effects of exercise on anxiety, but those effects seem to be stronger if you're working out in the morning as
Okay.
opposed to working out
Huh.
at night.
That's interesting.
Yeah, because a lot of it has to do with just basically what you're doing with anxiety or with exercise is you're putting yourself in an anxious state intentionally. And so then your body kind of learns to kind of control that.
It's like
and
the
then-
physical anxiety, like increased heart rate.
Yeah,
Sweat.
Yeah,
like
you
stuff
are
like
experiencing anxiety.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
Interesting.
Only you're doing it in a way that you control,
Yeah.
which then also reinforces your perceptions about anxiety. So part of that whole thing about having anxiety is the anxiety about having anxiety.
Yeah.
So it's not just that I have these symptoms, but now I'm worried about having
getting
these
the
symptoms.
Yeah.
So now you're taking part of that equation and you're eliminating it because you're teaching your body how to respond to those symptoms. So the fear of it kind of starts to go away.
That's really cool.
Yeah. So there's all sorts of things with that. So if exercise is something you're doing, but you're doing in the evening, maybe try to do something in the morning, or even like taking breaks during the day has been very helpful. If you're able to get out during your lunch break and just go for a walk, it doesn't have to be like a full intense, CrossFit workout, just go for a little walk. Just getting some exercise every once in a while could be very helpful. But I mean, I have heard of this happening where, it kind of goes into remission, but then certain things can kind of trigger it and it kind of starts to come back. Generally, from my understanding, the way that it's been treated, if you've had success treating it one way in the past, I would probably start there. It may not be as effective right off the bat. So there's always going to be some little tweaks or something that you may have to do different. But always start with what you know works first. So
Yeah.
just a couple thoughts I had.
Yeah. It sounds like to me the writer really has a history with ADHD and some kind of, I wouldn't say severe, but like noticeable symptoms. And now it's affecting your life. It's affecting your work. I know as therapists, even since I've been on briefly, we've brought this up multiple times that, that's how something might need further intervention if it's disrupting your life in some way. The fact that you haven't tried medication and you mentioned like being scared to try it, I was wondering why. What's the fear behind that, especially from a non-doctor, my little asterisk disclosure here. ADHD meds tend to be as needed more than any other.
I hope you're talking to your doctor about that.
Yeah.
I hope that it's not completely
someone.
off the table in your head. I hope that you're talking to your medical professional about the possibility, at least.
Yeah, just talking to someone about it, even getting a prescription doesn't mean you have to get it filled.
Yep.
Go talk to somebody, see what they say.
No, I just don't want to see options, potential solutions just off the table.
Yeah.
Now, if there's a good
That's a
reason
big
for it, there
one.
might be a reason that we don't know about.
Yeah.
I don't know what that reason would be.
Yeah.
But if there is a reason, cool. But if there's not a specific reason, I'd like you to at least talk to somebody about the possibility.
Yeah. Because, it sounds like you had things that worked for you in the past, developing different lifestyle techniques and things like that would help you stay on top of things. But another thing I was going to mention just as a resource, I don't know. It's not super professional probably, but on YouTube there's a content creator that runs a channel called How to ADHD. And it's like a young lady, and I really like that it's a woman because that's more uncommon to be diagnosed. Jacob's the narcissism in Jacob right now. No, I'm just kidding.
I'm out.
Egotistical.
Do you still
No, I'm
have
just
her
kidding.
contact info?
Probably, yeah.
I'd like to. Can we get her on the show?
Yeah.
She's here next week.
Just a
Jacob will-
parade of
Oh,
Jacob's
that would be,
exes.
oh my God, that would be so much. Patreon. There is a level.
Oh, certainly.
There is a
There
level.
always is.
There is a level. But
What
yeah.
amount of money do I have to get to seriously piss off this woman who has not thought about me in a long time?
As far as you know. But no, I love it. She covers a lot of different topics. She did a TED Talk too, like 5 or 6, like forever ago, 5 or 6 years ago. But
What's the name?
How to ADHD
How to
is
ADHD.
the name of her channel. I think her name's Jessica. But covers a wide variety of topics, including like how to be in relationships, because that can be really
Nice.
challenging. And how she sets up her apartment. It's not
Oh.
like, aesthetic and clean and organized. It's like I have this chair set up to look out the window and I need a break. And, I put a little basket with my catch-alls so that I know what I need to grab. And, for the coffee, I have it set on the counter. And right below it is my coffee pods, and right above are my mugs. So if I have to go across the room for my mugs, I'm going to get distracted.
Oh.
So if I want my coffee,
So this is her coping.
yes, she's like set up her life to help ease
Neat.
her
You
stress.
ever seen the movie Memento?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, it's almost kind of set up like this, where it's like,
Yes.
he didn't have the ability to form any long-term memory. So everything was all based off of short-term memory, but he was able to survive because he basically created a system that his brain would normally do on its own,
Yeah.
but he created an external system to be able to manage it.
Yes.
And in a way, it's kind of like this person is doing the same thing with ADHD.
They're,
where
like, hacking it.
creating that. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Now, I definitely agree with the medication piece too, because I mean, there are a lot of diagnosis symptoms that we treat in mental health that are treated with a mixture of pharmacological treatments and talk therapy. Some you can actually do a lot with just the psychotherapy, just the talk therapy part, and some you can manage pretty well with medication. ADHD seems like it's pretty heavy on the medication side. Like there's not a whole lot that I think a therapist would do to work with a client dealing with ADHD if they're not also stabilized on a medication.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's really tough to do without that medication component.
Yeah.
Depression, you can kind of do. There's a lot of other mental health symptoms, disorders that we can deal with in talk therapy without medication. Now, I don't want to say without medication because a lot of them, we never want to close that door. ADHD, it seems like that's not door number 2. That's kind of door number 1.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I definitely hope you're open to that. And I don't think it's anything necessarily to be afraid of, because I agree with Whitney. I think a lot of like kids that are on medication, it's very important that they take it on a regular basis because they're in school every day.
Yes.
But they'll still go on the vacations.
The weekends or on summers,
Yeah.
especially working in foster care,
Yeah.
where Nick and I worked. Like, yeah, the kids would go sometimes if the foster parent talked through it with their psychiatrist and therapist. They would go off their meds if they were like an ADHD type med in the summer and try and really work on behaviors to help them cope in case there was a time where they couldn't afford meds. You know, you're in foster care. You think you're going to jump out and be 18 and be able to afford all the things.
Yeah. So, and that was a very important piece. And I think as an adult, I think you're right, Whitney, in the sense that it's not going to be as important that it's taken every day like that. I think the biggest thing, but again, I'm not a doctor. I'm not a psychiatrist.
Ask your doctor about it, like Jacob said.
Exactly.
We want you to be in contact with your doctor.
The best thing you could do is have an open, honest discussion with your doctor about it. Always, to anybody who's listening, if you're on medication, don't make medication decisions on your own.
Yeah.
Always consult your doctor. Even if it's something like you're tired of taking this medication or you have these side effects you don't want to have to deal with anymore, don't make the decision on your own to stop taking it.
Yeah.
Work with your doctor. Your doctor will, for the most part, most doctors are very comfortable working with you. If you say that you absolutely can't do this, they'll try to find another way.
Yeah.
So.
I hope that helped. As we wrap up the show, we want to remind you that if you sign up at patreon.com/therapy, you can get the extended show ad-free and a day early, as well as enjoy our live chat Discord community and our weekly deep dives, interviews, skill shares, research roundups, and rants.
I have a really good deep dive coming up.
Nice.
Did you get in contact?
Yeah.
Okay.
I did.
Woo.
So hopefully that's going to be Monday.
Okay.
If there isn't a deep dive by me on Monday, it means I don't know how to record on Zoom. So hopefully
You hit the button that says record.
that can't be that simple.
It's very easy.
I don't believe you.
Yeah, it's
There's
very,
got
very
to be
easy.
more to it than that.
Yeah.
All right, we'll talk about this off air because I
All right.
really need
I really did.
I don't believe you.
No,
All
it's
right.
very easy.
We have some new some new Patreon subscribers, a new TheraPal, Anup Patel. I
Hey,
hope I'm
thank
pronouncing
you.
that correctly. We've got 2 new Therapods, Melvin Cramble. 3, Kevin, and Susie Kathleen. All welcome to the show.
Welcome. Thank you so much. We also, no, we don't have any new Therodactyls or new Thera producers. And as always, we'd love to thank our Thera partner. That is Dirty B.
Dirty
Dirty
B.
B.
Is this me?
Dirty
Is
J.
this next
Take
part
it
me?
away. You're doing great.
All right, and we want to especially thank our bosses, the Saccharin 16, the mysterious and shrouded Illuminati members of our fan club. That's the Thera producers. Thank you, Jake Schneider, Robert Brownie Jr., Mint, Smitty, Scoop, Ben Dawn, Judy Schneider, Kayla Lazenberry, Dr. and Mr. Hot Dog Scoop, Malia, Leon Kassab, Cindy Ash, Mason Miller, Richard Macy, Carolyn Albert, Kevin Chamberlain, Tess Miller, Sammy Scoop, Ben Stanley, slap in a face, Polygon, that's Sarah Smith, Adam Hathaway, Byler T, University Jeff, Mike Helm, Myra, Paris? Yeah, great. Samantha Cohn, Darren Cunningham, Lib, Team Monaco, Thunder, Cougar Falcon, Scoop, Matt and Lisa Tangeman, Heyo, Oscar Swanrose, A Sunny Boy, and Slurpy Kaye, motherfucker.
And if you'd like to hear this episode uncut and unedited,
And who wouldn't?
and enjoy our spontaneous side projects, go to patreon.com/therapy. And thank you for supporting mental health.
That's all the time we have for this week's session. We want to thank our landlords. That's Matt and Mattingly's Ice Cream Social. And thanks to all of you who contributed to our show today. We really appreciate it. Remember, pod therapy isn't something that you should keep all to yourself. Share this episode with someone who needs it by opening this episode's description in your podcast app and copy and pasting the link provided to your social media. Don't forget, you can find us on Facebook.com/PodTherapy, on Twitter @PodTherapyGuys, and now at Patreon.com/therapy.
Do you want to submit a question to the show? Ask anonymously at podtherapy.net or email us at podtherapyguys@gmail.com. I'm Nick Tangeman.
I'm Dr. Jim Jobin.
I'm Whitney.
Thanks. We'll see you for your appointment next week. We have one more trivia.
Yeah, one more
Oh,
trivia.
hit me. I'm about to run away, but hit me.
Here it is. Which of these is not part of a tennis court?